Yo, 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 what's up, y'all? It's your boy Big Mike in the house. Swish for real in the building again. I got my co-host with me, Boogie Boogie Bob. Raise the roof. How you living, Boogie?
This is where we hope to get to.
Facts. Facts.
So,
Hey, it might be possible. I mean, the preseason game's been looking really good. The last game they played against LA, they came back and then blew them out by 20. I'm like, whoo,
yeah, that
that
was
was
against the
crazy.
third string and a lot of the two-way players, though.
Yeah, but still, to come back. I mean, that was pretty. Gabe Vincent, what was he doing? That dude just lit
Well,
little.
he was a streaky shooter in Miami, but yeah, I like the way kids got it coaching. Is more of the dribble handoff and the ball's not sticking as much. There's more cut and dive and move the ball around. Most players other than AD don't have more than a couple seconds, and he's usually actually using several people, not as a point guard, but just to bring the ball up.
Yeah, and
So
I guess it is predicated on what's going on. But anyway, how was your week, man? How things going on your side of the planet?
it's been a real good week. So got out there when it's 70 degrees this morning and mowed the lawn. So ready for this 90 high 80-degree heat. It's late summer to disappear, but I got up. I woke up early and actually before the sun came up. So once the sun kind of came up a little bit, like, let's get this mowing out of the way. Hopefully, last one of the year.
Facts, and it is Texas. You know, the weather could change. Tomorrow it might be 100 degrees. You never know because it's Texas. My week so far has been pretty busy. Yeah, I got my lovely grandson in the house, and yes, folks, I do have a grandson. He's been with us for a few weeks now, and he's just been not a terror, but he's just been really demanding for certain things. But he's a great kid, man. He gets lots of love, and that's the most important thing. But I'm glad he's here. But anywho, speaking of Jason Kidd, man, he just signed a new contract with the Dallas Mavericks, an extension to be exact. So that says a lot about what he does as a coach and where they see him as far as bringing his team back to a championship. He got us there. Can he get us back there again? Bob, let's talk about his current contract extension. And if you have some details on it, please express those details.
My first thing that I wrote down, I guarantees he's going to be here longer than Nico. But what Nico say in his press conference, we might not even be here in 3 and 4 years.
hmm
Uh, But uh, so I think they kind of guarantees that he might outlast the GM. You
Yeah.
might remember Avery after the finals signed an extension too, and then 2 years later he was laid off. Like there's a lot of coaches in the NBA. They win Coach of the Year, and then the next thing you know, the team has fired him. And before Oklahoma City won five, before last year, five of the previous six NBA finals winners, five of those coaches had been fired.
Jeez.
And Milwaukee fired their coach, Toronto fired their coach, Denver fired theirs, the Lakers fired theirs. Uh, Only Boston was the only team to win the finals and not fire their coach.
Yeah.
And
That's
then now,
crazy.
yeah, so a coach's life is there's 2 days in a coach's life: the day he gets hired and the day he gets fired. But I, I've seen him grow as a coach from Milwaukee to Brooklyn to the Lakers, now the Mavericks. Even in his time with the Mavericks, I think this is like his fifth or sixth season already uh,
With the Mavs.
with the Mavs as coach. Uh, in fact, he's probably going to wind up being coach more years than he was a player as a Mavs.
hmm
But the only other thing I put down was he's quietly becoming a top five coach.
He's
With Mark.
smart. Remember when New York tried to talk to him in this offseason trying to get him to coach there? So that says a lot about who he is.
Yeah, I mean, with Popovich retiring, you basically got Spoelstra, who's been there for almost 2 decades, and you watched him grow, and you got Rick Carlisle. I'm like, okay, number three, if you look at all the coaches that have moved around, uh, you 3, 4, and 5, I think Jason Kidd's quietly sneaking into that top 5. And there's still some things he doesn't do as a coach. Like Carlisle, there were certain things he wouldn't do. Carlisle didn't believe in double teaming. He'd like
Mm.
stress defense, but if somebody got hot, he didn't double team to get the ball out of the person's hands. So Kidd does that, but he's got all new assistant coaches, and the one weakness I've seen is they don't guard the inbound pass very well, especially when there's less than 5 seconds to go on the half or the clock or the quarter. They just
Mm.
kind of let the other team get a free shot, and I can count at least. I remember at least 4 shots. Cleveland even had one where Max Strus shot one 65 feet. You know,
Yeah, that was a heartbreaker.
Con Con Concar shot one from is 1.8 seconds ahead of replay from the first half before they could start the third quarter. Is a weird call. Everybody's like, what? And Luka hit a three and everybody's celebrating, but uh, his foot was out of bounds. So they replayed that 1.8 seconds. And they just let him throw it to Concar. He just caught the ball, rotated, shot, nothing but net. I can remember over the last 2 years, there's been at least 4 times where they didn't guard the inbound pass. They didn't at least like stand in front of them and put the hands up. Uh, and they hit, you know, I would say at least 30% of the NBA players can hit a half court shot. A lot of them practice it. So I think that's one of his weaknesses, and that one of his other weaknesses is that a lot of coaches ride the hot hand. Well, and I'm sure you know this. He doesn't like to call timeouts. When the other team's on a big run, he wants the players to figure it out.
Hmm. Now, will
And
that work with the defense that we have now much better than it did in the past? Because I know in 2024 when we were in that championship, when we went to the finals rather, he did the same thing. He just kind of let us roll with it.
I mean, it's good early in the season, maybe to kind of teach them, but you know, there's there's strategically placed timeouts that are just to change the tempo of the game. It's not because you don't think the players can stop the run, but you know, uh, you see some of the coaches nowadays, they don't let the 5 players that are in the game sit down. They make them stand up.
Mm,
If you've ever boxed, like even playful box, you sit on that stool in between, and then when you get back up, you're like your legs feel like they're just dead. You know,
really?
so you watch the coaches, watch some of the other teams this year. You'll see some coaches make them stand up because they don't want them sitting down. Because sitting down and then getting back up, it's like now they got to get their mojo going again.
Yeah, I feel you. So if you look at Jason Kidd and Doc Rivers, because we spoke about Doc Rivers in a previous episode, what are the differences between the two of them besides Doc winning a championship? What are the differences that you can kind of skim in your mind to
There,
differentiate the
there,
both of them?
there's really not a lot of differences in their coaching style. They let talent dictate more than scheme. When Sweeney was here and Jamal Mosley were here, that they definitely had scheme, but there's not a lot of difference in their coaching style or the way they relate to players. Really, the only biggest difference. I mean, Doc Rivers got that one championship with Boston. You know, other than
So
that, he hadn't got what kids made the Western Conference Finals twice. And with Lob City, they only made the Western Conference Finals like once with Doc Rivers.
Yeah. So with the coaches around him now, do you think because he has still got Popeye Jones? Well, Popeye Jones is how long he's been with Dallas so far?
He just came back. He was with I want to say he was with Denver. He's been on like several teams, some East Coast and West Coast teams. Uh,
Another guy, Frank Vogel, but he's not a coach per se, but I guess you could say because
if kid gets too technicals and then you got somebody come off the bench and coach the
Frank
team.
Vogel,
Yeah, Vogel's been around. Wasn't he in Memphis?
yeah,
I
he
think
was
Vogel was in Memphis. I don't know what if he is under the Popovich tree, but that's kind of like having a senior advisor on the bench that you can bounce ideas off of.
yeah,
You
and
know,
he's not a bad coach in general. Do you think that with the extension being what it is for the many years that they gave him, will that pull him out into retirement? Because most coaches, like if you think of Popovich, he coached for into his late 60s or early 70s. You know what I mean?
yeah, you're like 78, 79.
Yeah.
He was past mid-70s.
So you
Uh,
think Jason Kidd could make that as his goal to coach past 60?
uh, Carlisle's close to my age, so he's 64, 65. And Doc Rivers probably somewhere around there. So he might not make it to his 70s like Adelman and Dick Motta and some Nelly and those, but I could see him coaching till he's 60. Uh, the one thing you can say about Kidd as a coach, he's a good soldier. Whether he agreed with the trade or not, he sat there in a press conference and I wouldn't want to play poker with him because you couldn't tell from his face, his reaction, how he felt.
Yeah.
So
Have you seen that meme where the meme has him choking Nico Harris?
yeah, that was a AI generated deep fake.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's crazy.
it's a friend of mine said it's like being the head chef. You can own the restaurants and you can bring in get ingredients, but don't get in my damn kitchen.
Right? It's kind of like what Jimmy Johnson said to uh, Jerry Jones. Let me cook. Let me
Yeah,
cook.
let me cook.
You got anything else on Jason Kidd's contract extension?
Uh, they didn't release the number of years or the amount of money, so they keeping that pretty tight vested. Uh,
That's crazy though. They wouldn't tell us how many years, but I get it though. But the
well, and
one the fact that he got an extension is crazy.
they fired their entire uh, training staff, uh, physical trainers and uh, the Casey Smith and all of his team left a couple years ago, but everybody from last year they fired them all. So, and I hadn't read anything about who they hired to take over for as personal trainer and injury maintenance.
Whoever they hired, it's got to be top notch because we got Kyrie coming back from injury, and some people are speculating that Kyrie might not even play this coming season. I hope he will, but you also have you got to keep AD healthy, and then you have Cooper Flag, who's a rookie. Sometimes rookies do get hurt, but the fact of the matter that we have those main superstars that may need some guidance or some some protection injury wise. You got to have a great staff to keep them healthy as far as possible.
Yeah, you got a load management Clay and
Yeah,
Derek
yeah,
Lively, his first two seasons hadn't played a full season. They talk about the rookie wall. So uh,
yeah,
Cooper Flag's a different animal, but I think it's a smart move to lock up Kid, especially when there were so many teams other than New York that were pursuing him.
yeah,
So
yeah. It's a good look for Dallas for sure. And I mean, you mentioned Derek Lively as being a center. We're going to talk about what's why is the center position has been kind of obsolete in reference to what it used to be back in the day. When it's been weird though. Has the center position become obsolete, come different? What's been the main cause of what this swing into the center position has been? Because most back in the day in the 90s, in the mid to late to early 2000s, centers will back you down and do all of those things just like Shaq did. But now these centers don't do a lot of that. What are your thoughts on the center position? Is it becoming obsolete, or is it just like one of those stretch five things that we are seeing currently?
I don't think it's obsolete. I just think it's different. It's, I just think the center position's different. We got Wild Dog in the house.
Wow, no,
Good
what's up?
fellas.
How you living?
So so I don't think the center position is not obsolete. It's just different. As you mentioned in the 90s, uh, it was a different kind of center bruisers, back your butt up to the and they don't teach players that nowadays. It's like they teach more positionless. What I wrote down is the center position has changed from a post up to a rim runner. You
Hmm.
I mean, they've always had the law, but they didn't use the term rim runner, in the 90s or even early 2000s. In fact, on the preseason game the other night, uh, the White Pal's been with the Mavericks longer than anyone else, longer than the tenure game, and he's climbing up the polls as one of the players with the most games as a Maverick. Uh, and they were they were talking about how he's such an efficient rim runner, and they were giving props to JJ Barea and Devin Harris on how to run to the rim, because there's a lot of centers they don't know how to face the point guard, set the screen, and then turn. If you watch the White Pal, whether you like him or not, or think he's underrated or overrated, he's always facing the point guard, and he's got his hands up, and that's what they were talking about on TV in the preseason game. Like the first thing you have to teach him is that when you roll to the rim, you can't wait for the pass. It'll be in your face or hitting you in the head before. When you turn, you better have your hands up, ready to catch it or ready to go. And you know, thankfully we got three guys that can do that. Yeah, I don't know if you saw the Cooper Flag alley oop the AD the other night.
Yeah.
That was just nasty. Uh, and you got D'Lo that can throw the lob, but I don't think they're obsolete. I just think the center position has changed. That instead of a post up back to the basket, lob it in. And one of the reasons Rick Carlisle, he said, "Why don't you post up any centers?" He said it takes too long to create an offensive. He said if they double team, then they got to pass it out. They don't have enough on the shot clock.
I'm
So
kind of glad you mentioned the White Pal too, man. And I just wanted to give him a shout out, man. Hey, to White Pal, much respect, bro, because you lasted like Boogie Bob said, you lasted a long time, man, and that's something to say, man, because that means you actually add value to the team. So salute to you as a Mavs fan, but I digress. Go ahead, Bob.
yeah, it's like we jokingly say it was the White Powell trade, and Rondo was a throw in.
Facts.
But Wild Dog can tell you more about Dwight Powell than I can.
Oh
Facts.
no. Well.
Now, Wild Dog, we were talking about the center position. Is it obsolete right now? What are your thoughts on what they're doing with the center position nowadays? Because I know if you think about Shaq, think about Patrick Ewing, and even in some cases, I would say Elijah one. You know what I mean? What are your thoughts on what's changed in the position itself, and has it become kind of obsolete and more of a stretch five nowadays?
Right, because I feel like when we say positionless, I don't like when people think that the five goes away, right? So my first thought when I think positionless is I think of what's been neglected or what's been subdued, right? Because we have this certain mindset about what a center is or what a center should be. We're still carrying that. So my first thought is the point center, because when we got specialized, that's what we went away from. Centers that grew up handling the ball, being able to distribute the ball, but now they're being asked to do this in a box and focus on this in a box, whether it's defense in a box or offense off the block and defense off the block and help and primary defense and then help defense, and then that's it. Strictly power. But we forget about the point, the guys who could be the point. Like I just watched a podcast interview with Ralph Sampson on The Smoke,
Mm-hmm.
And his skill set. But he understood, coming out of college, that he wasn't ready because he had to put on more weight, right? He had to put on more muscle. He had to put on more lean muscle, get stronger, and he knew what was coming for him. And he still wasn't, with help, he got up and ready because the center was always in a position of power. You had to have power and whatever else you brought to the game, but you had to have the responsibility of bringing the power, or you were just going to get ran over. So,
Thanks.
So we can go positionless, but if we forget about power, if we forget about the center, then your team is going to get ran over. Even with all the rules, basketball is a contact sport. If you don't have a power, if you don't have an enforcer, right? Whether it's power forward or a center, power center, right? Or even a point power center like Ralph Sampson, then you're going to get run over.
So let me ask you this question, Wild Dog. Out of the current NBA players, which one would be a more traditional center? Because you got Nikolai Jokic, you got Bam Adebayo, you got Joel Embiid, Rudy Gobert, Karl Anthony Towns. I mean, the list can go on. Out of any of those centers, as far as the current NBA centers, which one of those will be a traditional back you down and dunk on you type center?
Right. If you see the precursor era, then there would be more Rudy Gobert. But then his game is confined to have to adjust to the new rules and in the new era.
But see, he's not your traditional center in my estimation, because he's
But
not offensive minded in that essence.
Right.
Like what Bob said earlier, he's more of a rim runner.
Right, but what I'm trying to say is, if you put Rudy Gobert in 1985, you're gonna have a different Rudy Gobert. If you put Rudy Gobert in 1995, you would have a different Rudy Gobert. Rudy Gobert is doing, like what I like to mention a lot of times, what he's been asked to do the best he can. He's been asked.
I agree with that,
Right.
but then you still got to look at his offensive output. That means he got to get the ball way more than a lot of touches than anybody else on the squad to even get to say he's an offensive threat. I don't think he's that type of person. In the 90s, the centers were an offensive threat.
Yeah, but I felt like if you cleared out and put Rudy on the block, then Rudy would deliver. But that's not the game that Rudy's come up in. So, but that's just my insight on that, because I knew Rudy's taking some hit lately, and I'm just trying to give the man his flowers, because, like I said, like even Ralph Sampson gave me the vision, like, oh well, Ralph. They were trying to get Ralph to come out of high school. They were trying to get Ralph Sampson to come out of high school, and even the Celtics, after his freshman year, showed up with $1 million and tried to get him to come, but he knew he had to put on at least 20 more pounds of muscle, or it wasn't going to work. He was going to come into the league and his career would be over before it started, right? He just had that understanding of the mindset of what he had to do to come in. So, but again, we're talking about someone who was 7'4" and had all this skill set, and you had someone like Red Auerbach saying, no, we can use you now, and we already have like the chief, and so we already have power players. We wouldn't be bringing you in to be power, but but understanding the landscape, it'd be expected of him to bring power. And even Ralph Sampson took hit for not being, strong enough or powerful enough or this and that, being 7'4" and being so thin, and because of that mindset we have about the center position. And if we go more traditionally like OG original, start of basketball, it was positions. So then Nikola Jokic would be fit more into the OG style of basketball, where everybody knew how to dribble. Everybody was responsible to be a baller and do everything, especially at the high level.
I agree. So you think the position, it's not necessarily obsolete, but it just has evolved into what it is.
Transitioned, because if you don't have a center or that power, let me say forward, center, and we like to say power forward, and then we just drop the power off the center, because again, the mindset is that's expected, right? That's expected of the center, is to be a position of power. So in positionless, then we need to change that up a little bit. If it's power, we need to say power, right? Because I have images of the glove on the block, clear out and have the glove on the block. Or I have images of, the worm, Dennis Rodman, who was really technically a small forward who played power forward, but could guard anybody 1 through 5. He'd be at the center. So even the worm through the 80s, the 90s, was positionless, especially on the defensive side of the ball, because that's what he was said. If you want a long career, Daly said, if you want a long career, position on this team and get minutes in a long career, I need you to be a defensive specialist. So he did exactly what he was asked to do, and he's a Hall of Famer for it. So, so even Dennis Rodman was really technically positionless. But we don't like to look at it that way, because we were still, you know what I'm saying? The best thing we can do is power forward, but but
so let me ask you this, and then we'll move on to the next
yes,
subject. What are your thoughts on Dwight Powell, as we kind of alluded to earlier? You have any, because I know you probably talked to him personally in some cases. Give us a little insight on Dwight Powell and what made him such a stay in Dallas.
Well, the thing is that, well, with the inside, we knew he was coming, and we knew we were going to try to bring him in, and we knew that he was someone that we wanted to keep around in the organization. When you meet someone from like a whole nother level, I'm not trying to insult anybody, but a whole nother level of character, and then their family, and then right off the bat, when Cuban had a meeting with him, it was like, you know what I mean? So that's not every day all the time. You know what I'm saying? Like even Cuban and Dirk's relationship is different, and they're very close, tight bond, right? That, and that really grew over time, especially, and that's your franchise guy. But for someone to be like what I tried to express before, your foundation, your rock, someone to hold it down in the locker room when you've got, hired mercenaries coming in and out, and then you got Dirk there, and it's like, but who's your rock and foundation in your locker room? Who's the rock or representation of your organization in the community and in the league? And I'm fully comfortable with that being Dwight Powell, because again, when we were in that time when he was coming into the league in the landscape, we were like, this is our guy. We know he can deliver in so many different ways, that on and off the field, right? And so, but injuries happen, and again, the way the game is being played, even the way the Mavericks adjusted and played the game changed up a bit, and then you have to have the right set of chemistry, because again, he's a cutter, he's a runner. You gotta, like Boogie said, hands ready. Like, I'd be screaming that. Well, put your hands up, hands ready, but you have to have someone that's ready to deliver that ball, that's ready to deliver it to him, to cut and slash. And if he's not getting that, then he can just all he can do is the best he can do at what he's been asked to do. You know, so
Yeah. I got it.
so
So moving
people
on to
say,
the
why is he always on TV? Why is he always in the picture? Because that's who he is. If you say there's an issue somewhere, we need somebody, that's the first dude to stand up. That's the first dude to say, I got it. Whether it's a player, something internally or out in the community, this is the first guy to stand up, or you don't have to ask him. If he's aware of a situation, he's the first person to go dig in. That's who he is. You know, and he may not get his flower till he's retired or till he's gone. You know, sometimes it's like that.
Yeah. So moving on to the next subject, we're going to talk about siblings that were in the NBA, played. Some of them didn't play at the same time. Some of them came afterwards. Boogie Bob, I have a nice little list of brothers, but I want to hear what your list of siblings are, and what was your impression of them being. Which one was the best, and what will their impact on being brothers playing in the NBA?
Well, Wild Dog going to lose some weight after I'm done with this one. There won't be much food on the table. But I do want to add 3 quick points on the center. The guy that's closest to the type of center that you were talking about in the 90s is Joel Embiid.
I
He,
agree.
he's the post up player. He can move out. So, and the other thing is when we say positionless, we're not talking about whether they're center or power forward. We're saying that the guard, the center, the power forward, everybody on this team has the same skill set. They can dribble the ball, they can bring the ball up, they can rebound. So positionless is not necessarily referring to uh, where you put them in some kind of box. It's saying they had the same full, complete skill set. In the 90s, your specialists had one skill set. They couldn't do everything. So positionless means all 5 players on the floor had the same skill set and can do that. And I will note this: Magic Johnson was 6'9", a point guard, and he played center and won MVP as a rookie in the finals.
Yep.
Yeah.
So
That's my trump card when it comes to it. I'm like, hey, you know, I'm like, you know, hey.
so I got a long list on siblings. I broke it into current, old school, and up and coming.
Gotcha.
So my top 5 for current, Wild Dog gonna love this. The Curry brothers,
Yes.
Steph and Seth.
Yep.
The Lopez brothers, number 2.
Yep.
Yeah.
The Holiday brothers, Drew and Aaron, and there's a third Holiday. You may hate these next 2. One played for the Mavericks for a little while. The Morse brothers, Markeith and Marcus.
Yep.
Yes.
And then 5, and this is a shout out to you, Coach Big Mike, the Ball brothers, LaMelo and Lonzo.
Yep.
So that's my top 5 of current. Old school. Drum roll. The Gasol brothers, number 1, Powell and Mark Gasol. They were actually traded for each other. Most people don't know that. This number 2, one of the players actually played when I was in college. They're twins, actually. Horace and Harvey Grant.
I thought you might miss them, but you got them.
I told you weren't going to eat. You're going to lose some more weight.
Hey, man, yeah.
Old school number 3, I got the Wilkins brothers, Dominique and Damian.
Yep.
Yes.
And this one's a shout out to Wild Dog, Mr. VHS Black and White Tape Machine, the Van Arsdale brothers, Dick and Tom.
Yeah.
And then a couple of these played for the Spurs, the Barry brothers, John, Drew, and Brent.
Yep.
Yeah.
One of them won the dunk contest, remember?
Yeah.
One won the contest. I think one was even in the 3-point contest.
He won the dunk contest and was in the 3-point contest. That was Brent Berry.
Brent.
Yeah.
And then I have 5 for the up and coming. One of your favorite players, Almond Thompson, and his twin brother, Asur.
Yeah,
That's
they
in
nice.
number 1. Number 2, I got Mo and Franz Wagner.
They nice. They real nice.
Number 3, I got Jaden and Jalen McDaniels.
Oh yeah.
Jalen McDaniels on Minnesota.
And I know you're gonna hit us up with the Oklahoma brothers.
Then Murray, I got Keegan and Chris. Keegan plays for Sacramento.
Yeah.
And no, I did not lift Oklahoma City one. But this next one, kind of a homer call. Coach Carlisle, we thank you for helping us recruit Ryan Nebhart and his brother Andrew. So I got Nebhart at number 5.
Ryan can hoop, man. He's been hooping, man. I don't know what he's gonna do. That's a hard decision right now for Dallas, man.
And out of all those 15 I mentioned, the Curry brothers would only compete if we included the WNBA.
Huh?
I know Wild Dog going to say something about this, but if we included the WNBA, Reggie and Cheryl Miller.
Yes. I got, hey man, hey man.
So you can go to the store, go get some food, Wild Dog. There ain't much to eat now.
That's later. That's later in the show.
well, let's swing it over to you, Wild Dog. Give us your thoughts on the NBA.
I thought I was definitely going to sneak in the Miller siblings. I thought I was definitely going to slide that one in. Oh man, all I want to do is emphasize, right? All I want to do is at this point is emphasize, if I may, because I would always give love to the Grant brothers, and it would be like, you know. So we know a bit about, you know, of course, Horace Grant, who played for the Bulls, played with Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen, 4-time. Right, people always think about, oh, it's his time with the Bulls, and his 3 chips there, and they forget about his trip with Shaq to the finals, and they lost. So that's 4 trips to the finals, you know, 3 out of 4. And then I believe it was 2004 with the Lakers. He won his 4th chip, so 4 out of 5, at least, you know, for Horace Grant. And then when you're a twin brother, it's not that they're just brothers, but they're twin brothers. You know, for me, sets them aside a bit. You know, his twin brother Harvey played 11 years in the NBA. So as a journeyman, that's no slouch to put in 11 years in that time in the NBA where, you know, a couple of injuries and you done, you know, because we didn't have the technology and level of care that we've got now, treatment and care that we've got now. So big ups always to the Grant brothers, the Grant twins. And then current players, when I always bring up Seth, it's like, oh, he's trash. I'm like, I'm being brutally honest. It's like literally, it's like he's trash. It almost seemed like 9 times out of 10, that's the response I get before I can even say anything. And I'm like, it's like this man is under such a shadow of his brother, which I mentioned before, that he's trash. But you know, if Steph was out of the picture, this man would be a solid professional. And then to back it up, I just want to give data, because people's opinion is going to people's opinion. The shadow is very broad. You're dealing with a 4-time champion, you know, how many trips, finals MVP and league MVP. And so I can't do anything about the shadow that Steph is going to continue to cast. But Seth, S-E-T-H, Seth Curry is second in career NBA 3-point percentage.
Nice.
This is data. This is facts, people. And then for career, he's over a 90% over 90% free throw percentage in his career. So this is a shooter. Seth, and I know I take heat for this, Seth is more of a traditional shooter because I insist that Steph is a scorer. They're brothers, not twins. They're brothers. So I would tell you that Seth is more of a traditional shooter and Steph is more of a traditional scorer, but blessings of his father completely deconstructing and reconstructing his shot to make him a better shooter. But Steph is a scorer. And that's just what I want to bring in and emphasize for my two favorite sets of brothers. And Boogie, you did an excellent job, even covering the black and white. Man, big ups to you, brother. Boogie, I love you, man. I got nothing but respect. I mean, I had nothing left. Nothing.
So here's some honorable mentions. Antetokounmpo's brothers, Thanos, Costas, and Alex. And then you also have, y'all forgot Caleb and Cody Martin. And then I mentioned them earlier, Jalen and Cody Williams. Those are two brothers that they're really hooping. And lastly, you can also add in the Dragic brothers, Goran and Zoran. So, there's a lot of brothers out there we
I can
have
only
mentioned.
list 5. I had the Dragic brothers on there, but I got to stop at 5. So,
well,
and I'm not impressed with Caleb Martin. He had one great year, in Miami, along with Gabe Vincent. By the way, what glue did he sniffed the other day when he hit his first 5 3-pointers, and then he couldn't buy a bucket. But
and then your question, Big Mike was like all time. So I went, I went like I did current, but then it was like, okay, let me do one. Let me at least do emphasize one current, right? Because they're one of my favorite sets of brothers, Steph and Seth. But then all time, the Grant brothers are my favorite. Just even them coming up out of college, watching them play in college, and then their long careers, and then what they were able to do, and then still I feel like nothing against MJ and Scottie Pippen, but I feel like the first 3 chips, Horace was the rock and the power. You know what I'm saying?
He's a rebounding machine.
Yes, and then
and the whole reason I mention them is because I got to see Harvey Grant play for 2 of his 3 years at OU.
see?
And he played next to Stacey King, and that team lost to Danny Manning in the Kansas in the NCAA finals.
Exactly. So
Stacey King got drafted by the Bulls, but Harvey Grant has 2 brothers, or not brother, 2 sons that had Jeremy and Jeremy Grant, which point guard, and then the forward.
Portland. He was at Portland, wasn't he? Is he still at Portland?
Yeah, they're both their names start with a J, so I just remembered.
Yeah, I get a little bit confused myself too, but yeah.
Yeah, so the power forward, he still plays, but the one that was a point guard, he only played about 4 or 5 years. I don't remember him getting. So that just tells you the bloodline, and as what do we always say? Pedigree.
Pedigree matters. That's what I was about to say. That's why we always go there. Pedigree matters. And so, and you're talking about siblings, you always like, especially the Curry, it's like, well, we know Del Curry, you know what I'm saying? And his long career. So that leads right into it. So it's like, my favorites, it lends into the pedigree, not just because they're brothers, but then also their father and his long career and well known, and them 2 young men literally growing up in the NBA, with players knowing them and them even getting to play with, actually grow up and play with people that, they looked up to, play against or play with players that they looked up to.
And you got 2 twins coming up through high school. There are a lot of twins coming up right now that are on the top 50, top 100 list. But Carlos Boozer's sons.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
pedigree is coming.
Wilder, I want to ask you this question as we move on to the next subject.
Yes, sir.
The Jason, Jamal, and Jimmy's. era in the Dallas Mavericks history. Were you able to kind of be close at hand to see what was all going on during that time in the arena or Union Arena days? What were your thoughts on that? And kind of give us your thoughts on the three J's and what are they when it comes to Dallas history and folklore?
It wouldn't be the first time in the league, but um, the best I can kind of liken it to that people are going to be familiar with, right, is the Oklahoma City situation, right? When you had Kevin Durant, Westbrook, and Harden, and their missed window of opportunity and the timing of it all is the best thing I can liken it to that people would currently understand or be able to, oh, okay, the three J's. I just felt like on one hand, I was like, they needed time to get the chemistry together because of there's only one rock. And you got three guys that are that good. They need time to flesh out and work out the room and how the rock is going to be shared. And then like I like to bring up what certain players do or being asked to do, I felt like it was wrong. I felt like especially Jamal was being asked to put himself in a box to give up certain parts of the game when I felt like that wasn't necessary, because it was like, we have to win with you guys now. And then there was a breakup. So I felt like it was a major missed opportunity in the league. And even for the, like, not necessarily America's team, but it was a missed opportunity for such great basketball with three great players. And I felt like it cost Jamal Mashburn the most out of the three.
So let me ask you this question though. Do you think it would have to do more of the coaching aspect or the ownership aspect of why they were saying
I was trying not to go there, but initially
Be a good dog. Be a good dog. Don't get in trouble now.
I was trying to be a good dog, but hey, a question's a question. I'm gonna answer it. But I felt like being in a reunion arena with my head resting against the rafter. I'm like, they're being mismanaged, right? There's only one rock. You got three superstars. You gotta do something different. You gotta flesh this out and make this work, because this is huge, and we're all anxious and anticipating. It's like now it's like if one player is got a little tweak, you don't have to worry about it, because you got Batman and Robin every night. You got Batman, Robin, and Wilford. No, we got Batman, Robin, and this like the police commissioner, however you want to put it, but or Alfred, but we were missing the police commissioner. Let's say the coach is the police commissioner. We're missing the police commissioner. You got Batman, Robin, and Alfred, but we're missing the police commissioner.
So at the time they were being owned by the Perot's, if I'm not correct, wasn't it that the coach made most of the decisions at that time? He kind of influenced them of who to move, and they moved accordingly according to what the coach's dreams and aspirations were.
But their time was cut off by the owner.
But then again, it goes back to the coach, though. The coach had to sign off on it or agree to it or even think that was a good decision to make. It's a thought process.
I can't not agree with that, because I feel like the players are being mismanaged. And then if you're saying this is how it should work and it's not working that way, and then you start saying, okay, we got to sacrifice somebody, then, here we go. And you start doing the breakup, but that was just wrong. And I felt like, and it's not about hindsight. In the moment, in the time, like you asked me, in a reunion arena with my head up against the rafters, I'm like, you got to make this work. You just need time and just to figure this out. Pay them, take care of them. But the breakup was not an answer. And in hindsight, we see what happens. And it's ugly. It's ugly.
A bunch of years of no championships, no playoff appearances, just a a black hole of mediocrity when it comes.
And
I also want to mention though, each one of those players they had a 50-point game as a Maverick. So that goes to tell you they could score, but it's just the fact of putting them and gelling together is what was the issue.
yeah, and so you got to have somebody. I mean, not everybody's Phil Jackson, but you needed somebody Phil Jackson-esque. You didn't need so much a coach as you did, a Zen master or a counselor or someone more spiritual, more in tune into, personalities and the energy of people. Then you needed someone with the X's and O's because, I mean, you got Jason Kidd, for goodness sake. Just give him the rock, and let him call the plays. Let him call it, and then you have discussions about adjustments and what's happening and this and that. It's Jason Kidd, for goodness sake. It's Jamal Mashburn, for goodness sake. So you got two enforcers, you got two power, you got power and finesse. I mean, it just, it's not the first time you had this mix and it didn't match up, but I would say out of all of it, and I could be biased, but this is the best. This is the best.
Coming out of college, if you get that, they drafted all three of these guys. That's crazy.
And I'm even saying, because even with the timing with Harden, because it was off there. Of course, you got KD and Westbrook. Yeah, but like you said, just, man, right there together, their careers all aligned, and it's like, man, that's just like one of the biggest fumbles in NBA history, in my opinion. And you should
Kind of like Minnesota trading Herschel Walker, accepting Herschel Walker from the Cowboys.
Man, if anything, I would have hired 3 coaches just to handle them all individually, just specialized coaches, 3 specialized coaches to help them individually, and then just have your head coaches just as some, a manager. You don't need the X's and O's. You just need a manager. Bring in 3 coaches, someone that's focused on helping develop each one of them individually to fit their roles, and just have someone who's a manager, who can manage the egos, who can manage the personalities, who can manage the flow, who can manage the minutes,
But then you're talking about Ross Perot, like he wasn't thinking anything like that. That again, it goes back to the coach again. The coach got to kind of give him some consultation when it comes to what type of players he's dealing with and what he needs to make this work. And it could have worked. And I'm glad we're talking about this, because I was a huge fan of the 3 J's, man.
Yes.
And without them, Dallas would have, that time in our basketball era, as far as Dallas Mavericks, was a great time. It was no time like then that they could have really did something and made something out of that franchise.
And Big Mike, like you pointed out, any one of the 3 could put up 40-50 piece if you needed them to, if they felt they needed to or wanted to.
Yeah.
Right? You're gonna have to pay them. You got to pay for that in the NBA. And if you don't understand that, then you need to go somewhere else. You need to go, I don't know, go be a partial owner in a football team or something, or some AAA baseball or something. If you don't understand what I'm capable of doing and my potential versus what I'm being permitted to do or being asked to do in a box, you're gonna have to pay me, because if I go out on the market, but then you go out of the market and sell them, but then why are you going to help somebody else? You brought them in, you got them, do everything, put everything you got in, put everything you've got and all your resources into making that work. That really should have been a great dynasty for the Dallas Mavericks, in my opinion.
I agree.
On a dynasty, a great dynasty, just like OKC did. The OKC just needed more time, but then who pulled the trigger there? But I blame the pros on the trigger being pulled for them being broken up and traded off.
Now, Boogie Bob, you being a Mavs fanatic in essence, and the Mavs unquote quote, fan favorite when it comes to dance. What were your thoughts on the Three J's as you watched them through the Moody Madness era at the Dallas Mavericks at the Moody Arena, or the Reunion Arena rather?
Well, I got lots to say as none of it's pretty.
Ooh, hey,
Or as Hardaway's mom would say, penny. It's
right.
not penny. I'll draw before I get to my points. I want to add on to what Law Dog just said about paying. So Don Carter was the owner when they drafted Jim Jackson, and that was the Shaquille O'Neal, Alonzo Mourning, Christian Laettner 1, 2, 3.
Ooh,
The Mavs
Right.
had the worst the worst record in the NBA, and they got the 4th pick. Jim Jackson didn't even play until the season was 40 plus games into the season, and he hit a half court shot at the buzzer. Then Rossborough took over. You have to remember there was 3 coaches. The first coach, I think, was either Buckner or Jim
Quinn
Clemens,
Buckman,
Quinn Buckner, and then you had Jim Clemens,
correct?
who tried to bring the triangle offense. And it's kind of like the Cowboys now. You got players that can do a certain thing, but you're running a scheme that the players aren't good at. And he didn't last very long.
hey.
And before Nelly took over, the coach that actually got the most out of him was Dick Motta.
Yeah. Salute to Dick Motta.
So I wrote down, because I lived through that. All 3 of the Jays were very individually talented, yet the pieces did mesh very well. Jim Jackson played for like 12, 13, 14 teams. We know Kidd, he's a Hall of Famer, his record. Mashburn, if he hadn't blown a knee out, he might be a Hall of Famer, might still be. And I'm just going to go down through the players kind of analysis. Jim Jackson was an old school post-up player at the shooting guard position. So think about that a minute. He had a great post-up game. He played like Mark Aguirre and Adrian Dantley, but at the height that he was, they put him at shooting guard. And then they tried to make him a point guard. He wasn't either. Mashburn was a terrific scorer. He could score at will. They had him at power forward, not small forward. He was about 6'6". And I was at the NCAA Final Four tournament in '93 when North Carolina won it, but Kentucky played Michigan in the semifinals, and Antoine Walker was a freshman on that team, and Jamal Mashburn went to go to the rim, was going to go slam it, and this fellow named Chris Webber with the number 4 said, "Not in my house," and swatted that crap out of here. And the friend sat next to me said, "That's why Mashburn won't make it in the NBA."
What?
Because he had the skill set to score, but he was small for the position that they were trying to play him at. 6'5", 6'6", and you're sticking him against forwards back in the day that were 6'9", 6'10", bruisers, the Rick Mahorns and Charles Odom and those kind of guys that just plain flat knock you on your butt and then walk over you and say, "Wake up, wake up." So Mashburn, his game didn't fit with Jackson, in my opinion. He was a volume shooter, and he was a post-up player. So that's 2 guys that wanted to be post-up players that were playing out of the duplication of skill sets, and they both were small for the positions that the coach kept putting them in. So you got a 6'6" guy. Nowadays, you could put a 6'6" guy like Dodo or PJ Washington, and they can guard a power forward. But back then, they didn't have that kind of skill. So you had Jim Jackson and Mashburn always fighting for the ball and the touches, and it was I'm the alpha. No, I'm the alpha. And and the Bader's sitting over there in the corner going, hey, I'm the point guard. I'm bringing up the ball. I'll decide who the alpha is. And that's Jason Kidd. By the way, Jason Kidd was the first of the three to be traded. We got
Mm,
Steve Nash, AC Green, and Michael Finley out of that trade. Or no, Sam Cassell. And they immediately traded Sam Cassell a little bit later.
Yeah.
Uh, then I had the next point was they never would have been a contender in my position, my opinion. Uh, 1 year when Roy Tarpley came off a drug suspension, they won, I think it was 40, 41 games. It was the most victories that they'd had. You got to remember they won like 15 and 22, 27. They had 3 years, even as they got all those picks, they weren't winning games. They bring Roy Tarpley back, Dick Mott is the coach, and they were close to 500. So I think if you let that recipe cook a little bit, they might have been 45 to 47 wins in the West back then. That's a first round playoff exit.
mm,
Because you got the Spurs, you got the Lakers, you got the Rockets, you got Seattle, you got Portland. I mean, the West was a juggernaut, and they just did not have the. It's not saying they're talented, but it wasn't the right mix. Uh, so I think at best they would have been 45, 47 wins in the first round playoff exit.
yeah. And the fact that all of them together, their regular season record was 29-51. So you probably have a point there because Jason Kidd, he averaged about 10.5 points a game, 7.5 assists a game, and he was pretty much the steals leader on that team. He averaged 2.1 steals a game, and then Jim Jackson, when they keep in mind this is when they're all on the floor. Jim Jackson was averaging 21.9 points a game and 3.5 assists a game, but his defense was suspect. Jamal Mashburn, same thing. He was 21.4 points a game, and he had 3.1 assists a game, and his defense was also suspect because he wouldn't give you nothing on defense. But Jason Kidd was the only one that was really averaging some steals
Yeah,
and some
the
blocks.
ball stuck a lot before that even became a term. But
Yeah.
you had three guys that wanted to be the alpha, and of course there was always the rumors about Tony Braxton and all of them wanting to date. Some will say that's true or not true. But even if you overlook that, they were kids. I mean,
Yeah.
you needed a babysitter. I
Yeah.
mean, Wild
that-
Dog didn't want to say that, but you needed a coach and needed a babysitter because you had three big,
Hey,
huge. Every NBA player has egos, but we're talking like 1970s Afro big type ego, and they just for whatever reason they it might have worked as far as getting along with a player. There were some players Dirk didn't like, but he played next to. Uh, but they even when they got Roy Tarpley back before they traded Kidd, they were a 500 team. They just they didn't mesh well. They had duplicate skill sets, and they all wanted to rock. They didn't want to pass. And I love Mashburn's game. When he went to Charlotte, he tore it up before he did his knee. He averaged like 24, 25 points a game in Charlotte.
but then Charlotte is. I don't mean to interrupt you, but Charlotte is Charlotte, and then I wasn't surprised that he felt an injury. Where if I felt like the better balance that we had in Dallas, I don't think he would have ran into those issues. They all could have pretty much stayed healthy. Again,
Yeah, and I think I
worked out.
don't know if it was before Grandmama was in Charlotte or Alonzo Mourning was there, but that Charlotte is now the New Orleans team. That particular Charlotte team, and they had some talent. It in the Charlotte Hornets of today is more that organization was the New Orleans Pelicans organization. But when you got three guys and none of them other than kid wanting to share the ball, I'm like, it ain't gonna work. It just you got to coexist, and duplicate skills at more than one position is just in today's game when everybody's expected to have the same skill set. That's one thing, but in the 90s, you were supposed to be a specialist. And if your specialty was the same as another player's specialty, then I think Popeye even played with them during
Yes,
that time, and Tim
yes,
Wiggler.
yes,
Uh, so it wasn't for lack of talent, but talent talent alone doesn't win games. In college, okay. In high school, middle school, yeah, yeah, a coach with great talent can win the league. But you get the NBA, talent is neutralized. Everybody's got talent. Uh, even the worst team in the NBA, pick any era. Even the worst team in the league has
sure.
players that would mop the floor with. Ain't got to remember in the early '90s, you had Hakeem Olajuwon and everybody playing in that Houston gym. So they all played against each other. Uh, so I didn't see him as a contender. You fall in love with certain players because of their game. Jim Jackson was certainly a useful player. He like I said, he played on over a dozen teams, and he averaged, you know, double digits. I don't look up, but he averaged double digits for several. And he became like Vince Carter when he was on the Mavericks. He was that sixth person come off the bench that could run the show or could fill in or could score. And the only one of the three that played any kind of defense at all was Jason Kidd.
As mentioned before. And I think what they brought to us was hope,
Hope. They
basically.
brought
Yeah.
hope. That's
Yes,
all. Yeah, they brought hope. Three years in a row they got a high pick. If they'd done, in my opinion, if they'd done the same thing with Luka instead of rushing it, if they had built with three consecutive drafts uh, through picks, then I think Luka had better surrounding players to start with. But they rushed it. They jumped the gun soon. Golden State's uh, Klay Thompson, Stephen Curry, and Draymond Green. Those were three consecutive drafts, and they weren't high picks. You know, Wild Dog was talking about Oklahoma City. Uh, Oklahoma City had like the third or fourth, fifth pick somewhere in there. Minnesota had two. They took Flynn as point guard. Oklahoma City had a chance to take Stephen Curry instead of James Harden. Now,
Mhm.
Stephen Curry at that time isn't the Stephen Curry we know now. He had to work on his handles. And Monte Ellis was a starter for a couple of years before Stephen Curry figured out how to get his shot off, like Wild Dog said, shooting mechanics and handles. So yeah, Stephen Curry coming out of college is nowhere near what the player you see today. So they took Harden. They took Harden over Stephen Curry. And can you imagine Stephen Curry and KD? I mean, you don't have to imagine very far because they played in Golden State.
they did it
Facts.
right. They ran it back and did it right, like what would have been right.
So we're the conversation now is going to switch over to shooting guards, and Stephen Curry is a point guard, but this particular shooting guard played for one team all throughout his career, and he was not bad at all in regards to kind of like Stephen Curry. Wild Dog, give us your thoughts on the legendary Reggie Miller. What are your thoughts on what were you thinking when he played against the Chicago Bulls and gave him the fits back in those days?
And so, like we mentioned earlier, pedigree matters. And we want to, I want to give a shout out to, again, we're talking about siblings. I know it's not the NBA or however it was laid out for Cheryl in her career, but what she did for USA basketball. But you have bona fide basketball legends in Cheryl and Reggie Miller. So you can't bring up Reggie Miller, or he can't even talk about basketball for a while without even bringing up some story about him and his sister, growing up. because iron sharpens iron. And so I think about the legacy and the strength of just the basketball culture with his siblings, and just growing up and what it made him into, and him being the younger sibling, and then him struggling to one up Cheryl almost kind of prepared him for his NBA career, because he gave the East hell. You know, you brought up the Bulls, but if not for Reggie Miller, we wouldn't have had the great rivalry that we've spoken about before between the Pacers and the Knicks, and it made for exciting and dramatic basketball. And even when we thought it was personal, there was still respect between, the Knicks #1 fan Spike Lee and Reggie Miller, and those, the whole classic, bravado. I just think what Reggie Miller brought to the culture as a shooter, but also with tenacity and swagger and bravado, and then him translating his basketball IQ and that sense of bravado and understanding of players into his years as an analyst. So Reggie Miller is blessing basketball culture immensely. So he, as best he can, everything that basketball has done for him, while he's alive, he's continuing to give back as best he can, because he could be off somewhere doing nothing, but he's still, kissing babies, working with youth, working with pros, giving advice, and helping to educate the public live and in real time. And so, and I just want to give respect also for Reggie Miller as a franchise player, which I think we've gotten away from. I think the days of franchise players, unfortunately, is over. So for the Pacers, until last year, Reggie, carried the team to their only NBA Finals appearance in 2000. And you think, well, he's lost, he's a loser. That's what I hear. Well, he never won it. Well, we have to get over that. It's not so much that you won, how it matters how you won. And if you lose, yes, it matters how you lost. And in the NBA, it really comes down to who you lost to.
Mm-hmm.
Reggie Miller and company lost to Kobe and Shaq. So I don't want to hear it anymore. That he lost. He didn't win one. He didn't win a chip, because listen to me, who you lost to matters. Because we're talking about two all-time greats. And a lot of people, Kobe and Shaq are in their top 5 or top 10. So not just Hall of Famers, but you lost to 2 top 10 players. That's who Reggie Miller and company lost to. So I'm done hearing it. So we're talking about his legacy. We're going to give this man his flowers. And 18 years with the Pacers.
That's 1-8.
Drafted in 1987, first round, pick 11, 18 years. No money grabbing. No, I'm going to team up over here. I'm going to stick it out here, and we can get it done here. And like they say now, even like the players, confess now, if it wasn't for the malice in the palace, they had built a team that was going to get it done. And with all of that, and with it happening, Reggie was at the end of his career and pretty much, being done after that, but a window of opportunity got messed up. And now the players are all, and they admit they messed up and they missed a window of opportunity, because even hindsight, the way what they had built and the way things played out, it was like no one was built to beat them that year. They really could have taken it,
Nah, they had a squad, man.
And
Indiana.
so, yes, they did. They had a squad, and really they had players that could do it all. Yeah, they had certain very key role players that could have started on other teams.
And if I'm not mistaken, wasn't Mark Jackson on that squad too with Reggie Miller?
Yes. And then before I lose my train of thought here, Big Mike, and then I want to put emphasis on this franchise player, 18 years, right? That was a record. You go from Reggie Miller, 18 years with the Pacers. Then you go to Tim Duncan, 19 years with the San Antonio Spurs. Then you go to 20 years, Kobe Bryant with the Los Angeles Lakers. Then you got 21 years, Dirk Nowitzki with the Dallas Mavericks.
I was just about to mention him.
So this is the company. This is the Mount Rushmore can only hold 4. Well, for franchise players, this is it for me. For franchise players in the NBA, this is it. Reggie Miller, Tim Duncan, Kobe Bryant, and Dirk Nowitzki. And I'll hand it over.
Boogie Bob. Give us your thoughts on the legendary, incomparable Reggie Miller.
Well, the first note I had was the same one Wild Dog mentioned. Stephen Curry's got the night, and Reggie Miller's got this. And even in the playoffs last year, I think it was Halliburton that did that before they won the game.
It's over.
So, and there was a few years there, if you did that or you did this, that was a technical foul. So, so there was a player called the Rifleman. I was looking it up,
Chuck
trying
Persons.
to find it. Say again?
Chuck Persons, wasn't it?
Chuck Persons, yeah. I knew the Auburn play. And Ray Allen was considered a marksman. Well, so was Reggie Miller. One of the things that Wild Dog kind of alluded to this. Reggie Miller was a trash talker. And he's one of the few that would trash talk Michael Jordan. So, anybody that trash talk Michael Jordan goes, "Hey, I'll just put 60 on you and you shut up." But, you can talk smack, but the ones that back it up, those are the ones that get respect.
Facts.
In my opinion, he was the forerunner to Stephen Curry and Klay Thompson. Catch and shoot 3 or one dribble and sidestep 3, wasn't nobody better. In fact, his career percentage from 3-point range was 39.5% for his entire career.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of players struggle to be 33, 35, and the ones that are anywhere near 40 are like gold, and people try to get them. So
in an era where the 3 was still optional, it wasn't.
Yeah, the 3 was the coach would pull you if you took a 3.
Yeah.
He was also in 6 3-point shooting contests. I'm not sure when it started, but it was like early 80s when mid-late 90s when they weren't consecutive, but mid-late 90s when he competed in the 3-point shoot. And think about that. In the 80s, and the people he was going against in the 3-point shooting contest, Larry Bird, I'm like,
Larry
really?
Bird, he's coming in second.
And Ray Allen?
Yeah.
Come on now. Like that's rarefied air. Some of the career stats. As Wild Dog said, he played 18 seasons. Career 18 points, 3 rebounds, 3 assists a game. He goes, I'm a shooter. I'm not a I'm not a shot creator. I'm Klay Thompson. That's why I say he's a forerunner. Like, my job's to score. You rebound, you pass, I score. That was the mantra. In 16 or 18 seasons, his career earnings was only $104 million.
Still not bad.
Lucas' next contract will be $100 million for 1 year.
We getting there. We getting there to 100 million a year.
So here's some of the accolades that I drew. You know, a lot of times I'll talk about defensive player of the year, all-star team, and all that. 6 times he took Indiana to the Eastern Conference Finals.
Yes.
That's a lot of player change. As Wild Dog said, he made 1 trip to the NBA Finals, the first of the three-peat by Kobe and Shaq.
Yeah.
And this is when Jason Kidd was in New York with Vince Carter and Rick Hamilton. So, and AI at Philadelphia. And he still managed to get Indiana Pacers to the finals. It's 5-time All-Star.
Something about him was amazing, man. Especially, I mean, you may mention this in a minute, but the time that he made those 3-pointers in 9 seconds.
Yeah, he was a clutch shooter, but like you need a bucket, get the ball to Reggie. And you know, I watch the old guys. Sometimes they'll post on YouTube the various podcasts, and they talk about Reggie Miller. And he said, other than Larry Bird, he's the only player that tell you exactly where he's going to go and where he's going to shoot it from, and still make it. Where he come out of a timeout, coach would call one play, and he would tell Mark Jackson, said, forget what the coach said. I'm going over here. You throw it to me, I'll score. That's how much latitude he had. But he only made the All-Star 5 times. The East was pretty stacked back then. 3 times he was All-NBA. All 3 of them were on the third team. And when you think about it, it's like, I don't know if he made a 75. I don't memorize the list, but he's probably, if he's not on the top 75, he's probably close. But he only made third team All-NBA. Like that tells you the competition that was playing during his heyday. 2 times he got voting shares for MVP. Now, how do you get voting shares for MVP, but you're only third team All-NBA? Explain that one to me.
Make it make sense, right?
So he's one of the, when you look at it statistically, is you get one picture and it don't make sense. But if you had the pleasure of watching Reggie Miller, other than giving Spike Lee a bunch of grief every time, he was entertaining. In fact, he's, you know, an announcer and analyst on one of the national broadcasts. But players revered Reggie Miller the same way people look at Ray Allen. It's just that he don't have the stats or the accolades that Ray Allen. And you got to remember, Ray Allen didn't get a ring till he went to Miami with the triplets, LeBron, Bosh, and Wade.
But then he won a ring with Boston too, right?
He won one with Boston, but I don't know if that was before Miami. Was that 2008 or 9, something?
I think it was before Miami. If I'm not mistaken.
2008, 9, Lakers won one and Boston won one. So
yeah, he won one with Boston, and then that's the rift between like him and, you know, the ticket and the truth, because he basically left and went to the enemy and won a chip.
So, well, I mean, when you know, they made a movie about Ray Allen. I forget the title of the movie.
Jesus Shuttleworth, was that the one?
That's the kind of respect players had in the NBA. To like even the defensive stalwart players that guarded and tried to shut down your Michael Jordans and Magic Johnson and all that. The one player they hated to go against was Reggie Miller.
Boy could shoot. Can't leave him open.
6'6", 6'7", and you know, he'd just rise up and go over you. And if you gave him a little bit of space, he'd take 2 steps and go up and tomahawk dunk it. And I'll finish with this. He said growing up, you know, his sister, and they asked his sister. I knew he was going to mention that. His sister used to beat him up. Well, when he made the NBA, they interviewed and said, who's better, the better player, you or your sister? And he goes, my sister.
Yeah. And I remember a conversation they had in the car one time. His mom went to the game that Reggie went to, and then his dad went to the game. I may be getting it mixed up, but he went to the parents split games because they both had a game on the same night. And
Yeah.
as they were riding home, they was asking Reggie how did he do, and Reggie said, "Man, I scored 40 points." He was like, "Oh, that's pretty good."
Like I
He
set
said,
a school record, right?
Right, right. And then he said, "How many did you score, Cheryl?" She said, 100. I'm like, dang, that's crazy.
100? Are you serious? Are you kidding me? Like, I can't win. I can't beat my sister. I can't do
You're
that.
absolutely right on that one, Bob.
But the modern day player, the easy comp is Klay Thompson.
Yeah, for modern day players. Man, I one thing I'm glad about that we talked about was the 3Js. I wanted to cover that topic because it's something that I wanted to talk about for a while, and I'm glad we had an opportunity to actually talk about it. And ending on Reggie Miller, it's fun. It's a fun conversation to have. So as we close out, let's let the people know what about us. You know what I mean, where they can find us, and we're gonna start with you, Wild Dog. Give the people information about you, where they can see you, social media wise, and give them all your handles, man.
Hey, I don't be doing too much. You can find me on YouTube, baby. We're here on YouTube, so you can find me on YouTube at Wild Dog Media. That's Wild DOGG Media. Sometimes I'm just out there watching. Sometimes I'm in chats, but always you can find me on or in the comment section for Swish for Real, baby. Always.
Swish for real. Thank you, brother. Thank you. Boogie. Tell the people where they can find you on these social media streets, man. Give them all your handles so they can catch up with you.
Boogie Bob and Swish for real.
Swish for real. And guys, his channel is growing. Get out there, subscribe, like, comment on all his videos. Give him some love. Same thing with Wild Dog. Man, just keep growing your channels, man. We appreciate y'all coming through. And me, you can find me always on Swish for real for sure. And if you want to see my movie stuff, I'm doing movies and films. Mikhail Lampkin, poet dash director on YouTube, and all my social media handles is the same thing from Instagram to TikTok. So you can find me anywhere out there, man. So if you want to holler at me about some film or just talk basketball, I'm with you guys. So guys, man, great show tonight, man. I appreciate y'all chiming in. We're gonna close it out. Swish for real, guys. We are out. Peace.
That's it, Pray.